Hello everyone. It has been a hot minute since I've, talked to myself via this camera. As you can see, we are in a new location. I'm in Halifax now, so this is my first time in the Maritimes, and I've just moved here because I'm starting my PhD at Dalhousie, kind of. It's a bit of a weird time at Dal right now. I'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, I've been here for over a week, but I've been in my place for just coming up a week now. My parents were able to come over with me for a few days, which was really nice. So we came over together. We stayed in an Airbnb for a few days, not too far away. I think it was like 15 minutes from my actual place. So we spent a day at Peggy's Cove in Lunenburg. So Peggy's Cove, it was those clips at the beginning with the lighthouse and everything. It's like I think that it was one of, if not the most photographed landmark in Canada. So it's just this old lighthouse, which I Googled and is still operational, I believe. So it's from this old fishing village. We got lobster rolls there, which were incredible. And yeah, spent a few days exploring Halifax with them. They helped me get set up in my apartment, which I love. This is my first time truly living alone. I lived in residence my first year in my undergrad. Then I rented a room in a house with my sister and some other people. And then for a couple years, I think 2 years maybe, I lived at my grandparents' place in the city. And there I was kind of alone for part of the year because they would travel during the winter and stuff, and then I would stay at their place. So I was alone for some of that, I guess. But I feel like I never fully felt alone, especially because my sister was in the city. There was a lot of other people. My friends were all in the city as well. Whereas here, at least this week, I felt more fully alone because I don't know anybody here at all. I'd spoken to people obviously before coming over, but all people from Dalhousie talking about the program, whatever. So definitely a very new experience. And I feel this first couple weeks has really made me appreciate, I don't know if you can hear that drilling. It sounds like people are doing something in one of their apartments. But it really made me appreciate the welcome weeks at Oxford because Rhodes has a welcome week, Pembroke has a welcome week, Oxford itself does events, and all of the grad students legitimately participate, and they have their own ones. Your college will have a JCR and an MCR, so there are specific events for graduate students. So that was really nice because yeah, everyone participates. I mean, there's just more students as well than in your individual programs here. In my cohort, there's 3 PhDs, which is kind of the most the Dalhousie English department ever accepts in a year. It's usually between 1 to 3. So small program and everything, just not as many people. But yeah, I guess that's where the college system is really nice because there are more people and they're able to have those kind of events, which yeah, really appreciate from last year because you just meet so many people. Here, everyone's very welcoming, and I have gotten to meet a lot of people in the program and everything, so not to say that I haven't, but I think that you just are, it does feel a bit more independent so far, I guess. The welcome week and the college experience at Oxford felt to me what I imagine college experiences are kind of in the States, how it's portrayed in movies almost, because yeah, it does, in your college at least, it does feel everybody and you see all these people and they have all these fun events and parties and stuff, whereas this isn't quite like that, at least so far. But yeah, it sounds like they do have a lot of things where they get together. Every Monday they do writing sprints at this one, it's kind of a bar, kind of a cafe. They go there, I guess, every Monday and do that. And yeah, there is like lots of stuff going on. It's not to say that there isn't, but just that it's less like aggressively social and less structuredly social, I guess.
than Oxford was. So it's just interesting to like come somewhere else. But so far, yeah, I've met the other new PhDs, met lots of people on the program. Everyone is really, really nice and really friendly, which is great. I've only gotten to meet a couple of professors because this is why it's kind of weird at Dalhousie right now. The faculty has been locked out. So basically, from my understanding, this is going to be like a gross simplification. It came up on their sort of, I don't know how long the period is, but it came up to their contract renegotiations with the university and the DFA, which is the Dalhousie Faculty Association. So it's academic staff. So it's professors, but it's not just professors. It's also like librarians and other kinds of researchers. And it came up on their contract negotiations, and things were not going very well either way. And then the university kind of gave them an offer. The DFA was like, we need a few days to vote on this, basically, so that all of our members have time to vote. And before they even had a chance to vote on that new offer, the university locked them out, which then kind of forced the DFA to go on strike. So they're currently on strike. They have a lot of staff and academics on as LTAs on like limited term contracts. So these are positions that either got turned into LTAs while professors were working it, or they got hired on and like have not been able to get onto a career track contract. But basically it'll be contracts for like 9 months or 12 months, and then you have to renew it again at the end of every year. So basically at the end of every year, these people are having to reapply for the job that they're already doing, because those kind of contracts are for jobs that are like impermanent, not considered like priority or not considered like necessary, but they keep the position there for like, some people are on those contracts for like 15 to 30 years. People have been doing that, having to reapply every single year for the job that they're doing because it's like non-essential. But obviously it is essential because you keep hiring them back for that same job. But then when you're on that kind of contract, you don't have access to the same kind of like medical and health benefits and everything. It also really affects professors with stuff like applying for federal grants, because some grants like SSHRC or NSERC or whatever aren't going to give you like a 5-year grant when you can only prove that you're going to be employed for like up to a year. It also impacts their ability to supervise graduate students, which again is kind of like one of the main points of being a professor, but also impacts your ability to get other sources of funding, because when you're like a professional academic, one thing that a lot of those grants require is for you to prove that you've like mentored upper year students. So you're really just like impeding people's careers in a whole host of ways. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because I'm sure that they do save money having people on those kinds of contracts, but also just like the waste of resources and the admin of having to like rehire people every single year is kind of crazy. And then obviously you lack a lot of job security as well. So that's been one of their the DFA's kind of like main points. And not that it's like a good thing, but something that I found quite interesting of like kind of witnessing this as a PhD student, I guess, as someone who like this is affecting, but like it's not my contract, but like this is a career that I would like to pursue. It's, I think, kind of like maybe a bit more transparent of like what these kind of contracts are like and what working at a university can look like and what you kind of have to look out for basically when you're applying. So in that way, I think that like that transparency is positive to me. Like the DFA is putting out a lot of information about this if you're curious about it. Dal Locked Out is a good Instagram account because it's run by some law students at Dal who basically are like explaining all of the kind of like legal and negotiation moves that each side has been taking in like a very easy to understand way. And they're just kind of like covering everything that's going on and explaining it in a really accessible way. And like, this is the first time this has happened at a U15 school. So it's kind of crazy. But basically what it means day to day in the meantime is that none of my classes have actually started. Profs aren't technically allowed to like talk to students in any kind of capacity to do like with their work and everything. So yeah, I met a few people that work like at the university and stuff, but either people that are like allowed to keep working right now, or I've met people like not in this professor like capacity. So yeah, basically the only thing that has started is the class that I'm TAing for, because it's taught by a QP teacher. So it's like someone within a different association, organization kind of thing. And the class is quite interesting. It's called Reading Pop Culture. It's like a first year seminar and everything. Me and both of the other PhD students are all TAing for it because it's like a big lecture. So this week will be our first tutorial, which is like the smaller group that we each teach individually. And yeah, it's interesting. Different professors, I think, will kind of have different styles for what they do with their TAs. Basically, ours was like, I've made slides for every week because she's also TAing one of the tutorials, or she's teaching one of the tutorials. So she's like, I'll be using the slides, you can use them, but you don't have to, as long as you cover what the topic that's on the syllabus. So usually each week it's like, we're gonna do a close reading of this text, or we're gonna work on annotated bibliographies or something like that. So yeah, this week it's gonna be a close reading. So she hasn't sent like the slides yet for what she's gonna be doing Friday. At least this first couple weeks I'll probably like more closely follow what she's doing, but she said like feel free to do whatever you want. So that's kind of nice, like we get lots of flexibility with that, but there's also kind of an outline there if we want to do that. I really like the course topic. I think that it's something that like I've been interested in before, like very similar, or like my dissertation would fit into a course on reading pop culture. But her specialty is more climate fiction. So her syllabus, the course this year, is going to be really centered around cli-fi or climate fiction, which isn't something that I have like a ton of experience in. I read some pieces before, like Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. I don't know if The Marrow Thieves would count as cli-fi. I can't remember if there is like a strong climate angle to that, but I feel like it maybe is related a bit. But like one of the readings for today's class was an article in The Guardian from 2013. It's called Global Warming, The Rise of Cli-Fi. And it's basically just talking about like, what is cli-fi, what is climate fiction, and this term, where this term originated and what it kind of means. But yeah, towards the end of the article, I thought it was quite interesting because it was basically talking about like how cli-fi as sort of a genre category is like maybe a newer thing, but like the kind of fiction, the kind of literature that is cli-fi has existed for a long time, mostly in the science fiction genre. And I just thought that was quite interesting because it's kind of like something that I had been discussing about romantasy as a genre in my own dissertation. So like here they say, whenever a literary term gains traction, it is a chance to examine not only what it says about the writers who explored the new ground, but also the readers who buy it, read it, discuss it. And yeah, I just think that's quite interesting, like how terms kind of rise in popularity and what that kind of like identity marker implies about sort of like the community around it. And he'd also said, and I do wonder whether this is a term designed for squeamish writers and critics who dislike the box labeled science fiction. So the term is certainly imperfect, but it's also valuable. And I thought that was perhaps a bit snarky, but also like really interesting because like when I was talking about romantasy, I was like, this genre has always existed. So like what is sort of the motivation behind creating its own specific term, its own label, like creating a new genre category for it outside of fantasy or romance or the sort of like umbrella of those larger genres, or of, you know, paranormal romance, fantasy romance, urban fantasy romance that has all existed for a really long time. Yeah, I just thought that was quite interesting, and seeing like the overlaps
was quite cool. And yeah, I think the class is interesting. I'm excited to like read more in this genre and learn a bit more. So yeah, I think that's going to be quite a fun experience. I'm excited to do some TAing and teaching and everything. But in the meantime, I'm just kind of vibing and like starting some of the readings for the other classes. That's really all I can do so far. But yeah, my other classes look quite interesting. We'll see once they really get started. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's cool, and I'm excited to be here and excited to have gotten started. It feels like wild that I'm like doing the PhD and everything now, but yeah. Hello everybody, it is a couple of days later. Still in kind of the same boat. The DFA has been negotiating with the board again over the last couple of days. Apparently they've released like a very vague statement of they don't have any other meetings scheduled for further negotiations. So I guess that's either good and it means they've reached an agreement and we'll be moving forward and we'll maybe be getting back to classes soon, or it's really bad and they're both pissed off again. So we'll see. That I just saw as an update on the Dal Locked Out page. We have not been emailed anything from the university yet. So I don't know. At least another week of no full-on classes, basically, is the gist of it. Because I imagine even like once they do come to a conclusion or come to like a settlement, it's gonna be a couple of days once that is announced and like gets rolling that we'll actually be able to like get back into the classroom. So we'll see. But yesterday I did go to like a TA training thing that was put on by the Learning Center, because usually your department would have one. So I would have like just gone to that, but they didn't. So they suggested like, oh, you could go to this like general one that the Learning Center is putting on. So I went to that, and it was like 2 sessions in the morning. One was put on by actually the manager for the writing center. So it was about like giving written feedback. And I found that one quite helpful. I will say like they're kind of things, because I have like experience teaching, a lot of it wasn't like new information for me, but I think that like the writing center's presentation was like still quite helpful, because I have marked assignments, but I haven't done like a ton of that. Like it's not like I've been teaching for 30 years and I'm, you know, an old hat at providing written feedback. So especially because like as a TA, I'll be able to comment more on the content of someone's work when I'm marking that. But when I start work at the writing center, you can't mark on content. You have to mark on you kind of just give feedback on like structure and style and that kind of thing. So it's like just helpful to hear her speak about sort of like navigating feedback based on like the specific assignment outcomes and like what you can say and what are kind of more helpful ways of providing feedback. Because I think like a really common one is the kind of like sandwich method of like something positive, then more of like the negative critiques, and then something positive again. And like that can be functional, but what they've kind of found is that people kind of tune out at some point. So like where to sprinkle in the sort of like more negative feedback versus the positive, and like there is always something good to say. And yeah, I don't know. I have another lecture today from that class that I'll go to be sitting in on. This week is going to be our first tutorial. We're just doing like a close reading of an article, so practicing doing close analysis. It's been quite interesting sitting in on like a first year class again, because it's been a while since I was in a 100 level English class. So it's just interesting to hear them talk and like the way that they kind of speak about everything, because they are things that like I'm interested in, that I've been studying and everything, but obviously at a very like sort of introductory level. And I don't know, it's just kind of interesting to go back and forth on that and like seeing people's different sort of levels with it. I don't know. People have been making some like really interesting points, and because it's like cli-fi and something that I've been exposed to and that I have read, but I haven't like diligently been focused on. I think it's kind of an interesting course, and to like look at it through the lens of pop culture is quite fun because, you know, people bring up different like movies and stuff that they've seen that have to do with it. And like last class we were talking a lot about sort of like the impact of like, okay, you can have like, what are the pros and cons of having more sort of hopeful messaging, and what are the pros and cons of having very like disaster-minded cli-fi. So that was quite interesting. People made some cool points. So yeah, I've been enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to the tutorial on Friday. So I'm gonna go do that today. Tomorrow we're going to be having like a couple sessions on applying to SSHRC, which is like federal funding. So that should be really helpful. I'm excited to do that. So I'm also going to like continue kind of compiling some of my application materials, because I have kind of my application topic, but I will be very glad to get some like insight and advice on filling out the application. So it should be good. Also the other day, not these two, but all of these books I grabbed for free because they had like a whole bunch of books for free at like the English Lounge, because basically it was like a bunch of professors who probably like retired or moved or whatever, so we're giving away all their books. So I just grabbed a bunch, because always like the more modern critical readers or whatever in the novels are always the first to go. So I got a few Faulkner because I enjoy maybe some American Gothic stuff, and I wanted to read more of his novels because I like the short stories. This is also Faulkner. Then I got The Turn of the Screw because it has, I've read The Turn of the Screw, but I haven't read other Henry James. And the other PhD said that she really liked, which one was it? I forget what it's called. She really liked Washington Square, so I'll maybe try to read that at some point. Heart of Darkness, More Joy in Heaven. That one just sounded interesting. I've got some Renaissance plays because the only ones that I've read from this one, I think, were Dr. Faustus and 'Tis Pity She's a Whore. I don't know if I've actually read The Duchess of Malfi in its entirety. I think I've read part of it, but maybe not all of it. Then I have The Pre-Raphaelites and Their Circles, and a Reading Pop Culture Reader, which seems just very like general kind of overview of like the study of pop culture. I just looked at like the titles of the essays, and none of them seem to be like about specific works, but I thought that was interesting. Good morning, everybody. So today I'm heading out to do the many like info help sessions about applications or funding applications. So I'm gonna head to campus now, but I really just want to show my outfit because I really like it today. It's finally starting to cool down a little bit. Well, it's still like 20 degrees, but it was a bit rainy out this morning and everything, so I'm hoping it's not actually that hot. I guess I should maybe check what like the humidity is and everything. But yeah, I just like my outfit today. Got it at a greenhouse. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is the Penguin Classics edition. This is one, who's this edited by? By A.D. Putter and Myra Stokes. So I've done Sir Gawain and the Green Knight before, and then we also looked at, I looked more closely, I think, at Pearl and Patience. I think especially Patience and like especially Pearl in classes that I did at Oxford, but I think we were reading like a different version and everything, so I kind of like skimmed the introduction last week, but I'm wanting to like go through and I'm rereading the introduction like in more depth now, and then yeah, I'm just kind of like going through it again. We're going to, all of the other grad students that are in that class are going to meet tomorrow just to like talk about the section that we were supposed to be reading for these dates, because again, we are not in classes or anything, but we're just gonna meet up and talk about them. I believe I'm the only one in the class that like I've probably studied medieval lit the most. Like most of them I think did a class or two during their undergrad and everything, and like maybe a couple of them. No, there's two other PhD students in the class. So is that person a PhD student? They must be. I'm pretty sure they are. Actually, I don't know. Maybe they're auditing it. Anyway, there's a couple people in the class that have maybe taken like a class in their graduate thing before, but like it's not their focus. But then I feel like now there's, you know, more expectation a bit for me. If anybody in the course like remembers that I did, when I introduced myself, that I did medieval stuff. Cause like I definitely, like I can do Middle English and everything. I can't do the accent very well at all, like speaking it. And I am just like very slow reading still, because I think it takes like a lot of practice to be able to read Middle English or Old English like as, you know, quickly or as adeptly as you read contemporary English. I'm getting better, but I'm getting there. So yeah, I'm still just like plugging my way through it. I did do Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I wrote an essay on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight during my digital humanities degree, actually. So I'm familiar with it, but yeah, it's definitely, I think, my favorite in this collection, in this manuscript of like 4 different stories. But then I'm trying to think about for the like assignment bits if I want to do it on Gawain, because I really enjoyed my essay topic and I wrote it on Gawain and like a couple of other works as well. But then I'm like, I don't want to do basically like the same thing. There are a lot of different angles, obviously, that you could take with Gawain, but I'm like, maybe I should try something different for the essay and write on one of the other texts. So we'll see. I'm glad that we're starting with Gawain though, because I feel like it's the most fun in the collection. So yeah, I'm excited once we'll be able to actually start classes on it and everything. But yeah, so that's just what I'm doing right now, just a bunch of reading. I've got like sticky notes with me because I want to like mark off if there's anything that I think is like particularly significant, if I have any thoughts on something, or if there's like weird kind of like language or word choices, then I can like make note of it. So we'll see how much annotating I actually do, but that's what I'm up to now. I was just putting on a study playlist, or I'm trying to find a study playlist, because I listen to the same playlist all the time. It bugs my sister because we have one of those like mixed playlists that you can do on Spotify like with someone else, and it always like includes these instrumental songs that I'm listening to, because I have a playlist called Pop Songs as Classical Music Gets Me Going, and it's basically just the Bridgerton soundtracks. And then I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before, but towards the end of this year, or this academic year, towards the end at Oxford, I added the Pride and Prejudice soundtrack. So, because I used to be able to like write and study and read to like any kind of music, like music with lyrics basically, but now I can't, because when I'm trying to read, my brain just starts like listening to the music instead. It like won't adequately tune it out. I can do it when I'm reading like books more for fun, but it's especially so if I'm like really locked in on something, then it's fine, but it can be kind of distracting if I'm trying to like read a critical article or something that like I'm trying to focus on more directly, or if it's something that is maybe still like a little bit dry, then my brain wants to glom onto the music instead. But I've just searched study playlists because I'm trying to like, maybe there'll be a fun one on here that someone else has done. Oh, there's a studying like Rory Gilmore. I wonder if that would be good. No, they've got music. Hello guys, it's Friday. So today is my first tutorial that I'm running. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be quite fun. I'm planning on getting there a bit early so I can make sure that I know how to run the technology, like how to get stuff up on the board and everything. Basically today we want to like talk about practicing close reading, like what is close reading. Basically like we're starting to teach them kind of the foundations of doing a literary analysis. So we're looking at a short story. It was called, I don't know if I will pronounce this right, but it was called The Tamarisk Hunter. It was pretty short. I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. So this one is about, I don't know if it ever says the year, but it's in like a near-ish future where basically there's been a great drought for years and years and years. And so our main character, Lolo, basically there's like the Colorado River, but it gets pumped to California, and these people will dig up tamarisk, which are plants that suck up a lot of water basically. And then when they prove that they've like killed them, they get a bounty for it, like a water bounty. So that's kind of how he makes a living. But to kind of game the system, he also plants tamarisk to then go and dig up to make sure that like his livelihood continues essentially. So it's kind of about that, and like the elite people are the ones who now have access to water. Like it's created these basically like two class distinctions. It's like people who have the water and people who don't. So it's quite interesting, and it ends kind of ambiguously on a bit of a dark note as well. So I'm excited to see what the students think of it, and to get them into small groups and like see what we come up with. But I'm not sure how far we're going to get into the short story today, because she also wants us to basically give them time to ask questions about anything, because she said that she's been getting a lot more questions in this class and her other class, that people seem a lot more confused than they often do in first year. And it's probably because of the lockout, or at least partly because of the lockout, because for a lot of them, this is their only class that's running. So a lot of like the like information or like the way that Dal works just with like their online platforms and everything, and how university classes generally work, isn't getting reinforced through multiple classes. So it's like just coming down to this. So they're a little bit lost on certain things. So giving them time to hopefully ask the questions that they need to ask. One person even asked me about their essay already, which that's not due for quite a while. So I'm assuming a lot of them are gonna have questions about the assignments as well. So just kind of going through that. But yeah, we only have an hour, so we'll see what we get through. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be fun, and I enjoy teaching. So hopefully it will be good. It's a pretty big group, actually. I don't know how many, let me see. I put them all into an Excel spreadsheet. How many cells do I have? There's 28 of them. So it's still quite a large group. Yeah, so hopefully enough of them will still like feel comfortable enough to participate. We'll see. I'm also planning on telling them like the bulk of your participation grade is going to come from participating in class, but if there's like something that you wanted to say but didn't feel comfortable sharing, or like the conversation moved on and you didn't get a chance to bring it up, like email me it or write it down, give it to me, and like I'll give you some credit for participation for that. So hopefully that will get some of them, take some of the pressure off for some of them, and get some of them to engage that way. I don't know how many of them would take me up on it, but I thought I would maybe offer that. And then afterwards, I'm meeting the other grad students that are in the Gawain class to talk about the first bit of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So we were just reading Fit 1, which basically goes from start of Gawain to when so it starts off, they're like, hey, this is how Britain was founded, and also it's all to do with Aeneas and whatever, and the Aeneid, and that's how Britain was founded, and Arthur's the greatest hero in Britain, and he's so great, and here's his court, and a great story about Arthur and his court. So kind of like mythologizing and placing medieval England within this like classical
within this like classical history or mythology. And then it goes into the story. So basically it's like Christmas, it's New Year's, and they're partying it up essentially. And Arthur always wants to see like a great joust or a great marvel at this time. This hotshot knight rides in, but he's not kitted out to fight. And he's like, I come in peace, essentially. I just want to like challenge y'all to a game. And Arthur's like, slay, sounds like fun. The knight's green, by the way, or everything he's wearing is green. He's rich, but no one knows who he is. And he rocks up and he's like, okay, the game is this. Someone has to trade blows with me. Essentially implying like, if you strike me and behead me, then I get to do the same to you in like a year. And everyone's like, weird, okay. And the knight kind of scoffs at them. So Arthur's offended and he's like, I'll do it because I'm not afraid of shit. And then Gawain's like, Arthur, I know that I'm just the lowliest man to be in this realm. Like the only thing that gives me any merit is the fact that I'm related to you, that you're my uncle, blah, blah, blah. So this is all like kind of ironic, a bit of a joke, because like in the Arthurian canon, Gawain is well known as like one of the greatest knights of the Round Table, like the most courteous knight in Arthur's court. He's got a good rep. So it's kind of like, Arthur, everyone knows that you'd be really great at this, that you'd be perfect. Give me a shot. For such a silly task, only the silliest knight should do it. And Arthur's like, okay, yeah, you're right. So Gawain takes him up. The knight's like, cool, behead me. Gawain beheads him. And everyone's like, all right. But then the knight gets up, picks up his head, and the head's like, all right, you have to find me in a year now because you swore, you gave your word, and rides off. And everyone's like, this could be problematic because Gawain won't be able to pick up his own head and reanimate when he strikes him. So, but they're like, well, let's just keep partying. You know, we got a year, it'll be fine. And that's the end of this first bit. So it's really just like all of the setup and everything. I'm actually like, I'm excited to go and like discuss with everyone because I enjoy this story. I like it. And I think it'll be interesting because obviously I spent last year with a lot of people who were very, very in the medieval, like who'd studied medieval literature for years. Like everyone was that was their thing. That was like their focus and had been for quite a while. But nobody else in the grad program right now, like in the new group, focuses on medieval lit. So I think a lot of them have done medieval lit before. I don't know if any of them said that they'd read this one. I know people have done like Chaucer and Mallory, or a couple people have. I don't know. No one else has said if they've done this, but I haven't like spoken one-on-one to everybody in the course yet. So I'm sure someone has done Gawain and the Green Knight, because I feel like if you've done medieval literature, it will either have been Chaucer, Mallory, Gawain, or maybe Beowulf if you did Old English. So we'll see. Surely someone else will have read this. But anyway, because people aren't because most of the other people in the course then aren't super invested in the medieval period, I'm just like curious to hear their thoughts on it and everything. So I think that's gonna be quite fun, and like it's nice out today, so we're going to meet up and do that, maybe sit outside and just talk about this first bit. So yeah, that should be good. And then I don't know if I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna see how I feel, but either today or tomorrow, I'd like to go to a bookstore because there's a book that came out the other day. Tessa Bailey's new release in the Big Shot series came out, Picture Perfect. So I'd really like to read that. There is another book that's on my radar by Joanna Van Veen. So I don't know if it was last year or the year before, maybe to the end of the year before, I'm not sure. I read My Darling Dreadful Thing by her and I absolutely loved it. It's very like inspired by Gothic literature, and it was giving very like The Fall of the House of Usher, and just really kind of like beautiful but somewhat gruesome descriptions of like ghosts and death, very macabre, and I really loved it. Like it's very atmospheric and just like I just really enjoyed it and like great book for this time of year. And she has another one called Blood on Her Tongue, which I think is newer. I don't know when it came out, if it came out really recently, but it sounds really good. Also very inspired by Gothic lit, but particularly like vampire Gothic romance. So I'm really excited to read that, but I don't know if I'm gonna get it yet because I do have quite a few books that I need to get through first. So I'm gonna see if I can find it at one of these stores, and maybe if they have it, I'll get it. Or if not, I want to at least read The Wolf and the Woodsman and maybe The Starving Saints before I buy that one, because I might have to order it anyway, because the ones that, I don't know if there's an Indigo close to me. There is one in Halifax, but like I don't know how long it'll take me to get to an Indigo here, or if they have it in stock in store here. So I might need to order it online, but we'll see, because yeah. Anyway, that's all from me for now. I've decided to also just be hella extra for the first tutorial because one must. So it is the next day now, it's Saturday. I had a nice time with the other people in the group. It was nice to get to like chat about the text a little bit. We didn't like get too hard into it, to be honest. We kind of just chatted and about the class in general, because a couple of people that were there have taken classes with this professor before, and it's also the professor who's gonna be my supervisor. I guess like we haven't like officially been like, you're my supervisor, but everyone just collectively is like, she's gonna be your supervisor, because she's the one that does like medievalism and does a bit of fantasy, so that's just kind of, yeah, she's going to be my supervisor, assuming, unless she's like, actually I don't have time or space for you, but does not seem to be the case. But anyway, so we just talked to like a bit about how her classes usually go and like some of the assignments that she does and how it usually works. And then also, yeah, a bit about the text and everything. So yeah, that was really nice. It was nice feeling like I kind of know what I'm doing with this, because I did so much medieval stuff obviously last year. And yeah, so it was nice to get to like not feel like you're in a class, but feel like, okay, this is for school. Yeah, because still no real word on the lockout or anything. There hasn't really been any more updates, so we'll see. But I did lead my first tutorial yesterday, which was also good. It's actually a pretty big group. There's like 29, 30 students in each tutorial, so it's still a big class. Quite a few people didn't show up to mine yesterday. Well, quite a few. I think there was like 5-ish that didn't come, but still like a good chunk of the class was like very keen and like participated a lot, so that's really nice because keeps the conversation going, doesn't feel so awkward then. But yeah, it was nice. So going to be doing some more of that next week. I do them every Friday, so yeah, nice to have like something in schedule and to feel like you're teaching a little bit. So yeah, that was nice. But today I just kind of want to do some exploring. I want to go to a bookstore because Tessa Bailey's new book is out, so I'd like to go see if I can find it. I don't know if this bookstore because it's the one that I know of, if it will have it, because it doesn't, they've got like, it's not like they're all obscure titles or anything, but I don't know if it's one that would be like getting in new releases all the time. So I'll see if it's there. If not, that's fine. And then I might go down to the waterfront just for fun. Yeah, so that's kind of my basic plan for today.
This ain't a rom-com, this is real
Hello, so it's actually the next day. I'm just wearing the same clothes as yesterday. But yeah, yesterday was quite fun. I just walked down to the water, it's about like 40 minutes from me. So it's like a bit of a trek, but it's not awful, especially like when you just want to be going out for a walk anyway. I do think that you can take the bus. I was like, oh, maybe I'll try taking the bus home. But then I realized I didn't bring my student card, which has my bus pass on it. So couldn't do that anyway. So I did have to walk up the hill, which was not that fun, but I survived. But yeah, it was nice. Got some food down there. It was cool. Yeah, the bookstore did not have Tessa Bailey's new book, which I wasn't that surprised by. Like, it is also one of those ones, it's like a little local bookstore. They've got a couple sections, like they have fiction, they have like a film section, they have literature, then they have like local stuff or like Halifax, or I think it's kind of like maritime releases, which is cool. And then I don't know if they have like a poetry section and like history and stuff, but they don't have a romance section. The romance is all just mixed in with fiction. And I think maybe fantasy is too. I don't think that they had a fantasy section. So their like genre designations are a bit limited. And so then I think that like their stock in those genres is also a bit limited. So they did have a Tessa Bailey book, but it was like Dream Girl Drama. That was all that they had in stock for her. So couldn't get my new book. So I probably will have to figure out how to take the bus over to Indigo, or I believe there's a Kohl's in a mall, but I have not been to that mall before. So maybe I'll see like if it's actually in stock there, and then I'll try to figure out how to get there to get it at some point. But yeah, and then I was very tempted by that pretty edition of Wuthering Heights that I saw, but then I was like, I don't need like a $20 version of this, so I left it. Because yeah, I do want to read Wuthering Heights because I did read it, but it was like a really long time ago, and I actually don't remember if I finished it or not, because like I do just know the whole book, like I know the whole story, but yeah, I don't know that I actually like finished reading it, so I would like to read it now more recently and in its entirety for sure, because you know the crazy movies coming out, so we'll see. I feel like from the little trailer that has come out, it's going to be like visually really cool. Like I think as a movie itself, it will probably be cool, but I just don't know. I've seen some like, people are really losing their minds and like making very sweeping claims about a movie that hasn't been released yet. Like we have a 1-minute teaser trailer. No one actually knows what this movie is going to be, but like from what we do have, I've seen some theories of what people think it's gonna be. And I saw one that was like, people think it's gonna be like Margot Robbie's character reading Wuthering Heights and kind of like this fever dream where she's imagining like herself into a weird version of the story, which I think that then something like that would kind of explain her odd casting, because Margot Robbie is just like too blonde and too Australian and too old to be playing Kathy if you're keeping it at all like the original Wuthering Heights, especially because like she's not that much older than Jacob Elordi, but she's old enough that it's noticeable, and she just looks more mature than him, especially because he's primarily been playing like college age kids and high schoolers. So then I think you just like associate him with a younger character, but like there is still just too much of an age gap between them to be playing Kathy and Heathcliff, and they're supposed to be like kind of childhood playmates kind of vibes, so we'll see. I don't know. And then obviously Jacob Elordi doesn't make sense because that is a white man. That's a white Australian man. Do we need another white Heathcliff? No, probably not. I do think that he'll be able to capture like the derangedness of Heathcliff, but I'm sure a more accurate casting could have accomplished that as well. So we'll see. I don't know. I'll still watch it.
seen, okay, here's another, just a little rant about Wuthering Heights again. I've seen people that are very upset about it, that I'm questioning if they've read the book either. Or, because like people just, I think, read it very literally. Like people are like, okay, this is, what is Wuthering Heights about? It's about all these things. What it's not about, sex. Which like, yes, is true to a certain extent, but like, it's a work of Gothic literature or Gothic romance, like capital R romance. So, and like a big theme in the book, arguably not like the most major, but a very like key part of the book is eroticism, particularly like Kathy's sort of repressed desire for Heathcliff and like this kind of toxicity of that, and how like it doesn't manifest physically, of course, but like that is still a very key theme in the book. So to say that like a sort of like having like erotic or eroticism as like a lens through which to view Wuthering Heights is not book accurate, I think is an inaccurate statement. But yes, it's not like to the graphic extent that this trailer is showing. Like actually, obviously Nosferatu is a more like fantasy freaky deaky version of it, but I think that movie is like a good way to kind of like explain that genre or that concept, because people also were kind of like having very weird takes about that as well, because I think that people just read into it very literally and not really like thinking about the kind of characteristics of the genre as much, because like when they're talking about Aaron Taylor Johnson and what he does, you know, at the end of that movie, his character, people are like, like the whole of it all, people were understandably a bit, it's shocking, but people were reading it as like, see, his character like never loved his wife because it was all just about like control and power and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, if this was like a contemporary story, that's how you would actually read that. But this is Gothic romance, it's Gothic fiction. It's like about the symbolism of it and using the macabre to kind of like express it. So actually it's about how much he like loved her and was passionate about her. But okay. And that's like similar to Wuthering Heights. And I think that Nosferatu is also interesting because it is a more like contemporary version of it, because obviously in a book written in the 1800s, those kind of themes are never expressed through like actual like physicality. And it's similar with Nosferatu, like Orlok and Ellen and that whole dynamic as like an expression of Ellen's sort of repressed desires and her internal life, and it's not sexual. Like it is, but it isn't. Like Orlok as this sort of like vampiric character is a representation of it. It's a metaphor, people. And I think that people kind of like don't want to read that into Wuthering Heights from all of the, all of like the drama online with it all. So yeah, we'll see. I like both of Emerald Fennell's other movies. So when it was first announced that she was doing Wuthering Heights, I was very excited. The casting made me think, and the trailers made me go like, I don't know. We'll see. Because it's called Wuthering Heights, obviously, and from the trailer, obviously, it's gonna be some kind of spin on it. So I'm curious what they're doing, but I am reserving judgment. I don't know how I got onto this, but what have I done today? Nothing. Well, I went to the grocery store because I wanted to get these ingredients for this like dill pickle dip that my sister sent me on TikTok, but I got most of it, but I couldn't find some of the most important stuff. Like I couldn't find powdered ranch. And then I like looked it up on the Superstore website because I was like, do they even sell this? And it doesn't appear that they do. So I might just have to like find it online, or perhaps at a Walmart they would have it, maybe. I'll figure it out, because I do have most of the ingredients now, and so I would like to make it because it looks really good. But yeah, has been my outing so far today. I also have been continuing to read The Wolf and the Woodsman, which I really, really like. It's a very kind of like, I started it and then I'd kind of like set it aside for a bit, and now I've picked it up again, and I am really enjoying it. I like the kind of, I think it's an interesting dynamic that's going on in it, because the main character is, she grew up in this village that like kind of worships or believes in these more pagan gods, and then the prince that she's working with, they worship this other god, and he's like super pious, like they're very devout, like they're very intense about it. And some of the people in her village are as well with their own beliefs, but she's not so much. Like, she's not super religious in that sense, but she does still believe like pretty wholeheartedly in that. She just kind of like accepts it more as like a matter of life. So then having that kind of dynamic between them is quite interesting, with him having these like very hard beliefs and her just being like, what a freaking idiot. She doesn't usually like think about her sort of spirituality that much when she's not like confronted with this. So it's an interesting dynamic, because she does have quite strong beliefs, but it's just not like expressed in the same way that his is. So I just think that that's like, it's quite an interesting system Ava Reed's like developed in the book, and like two interesting characters as kind of like foils of each other in a way. So yeah, I've been quite enjoying that. I'm like about halfway through, so probably gonna read more of that later today. Next morning now. I've just been doing some work at home here. I was like doing the reading for today's class for the course that I'm TAing for. And yeah, like getting organized, some of the readings that I want to get done today for my classes. There was an update on one of the Dal faculty Instagrams that I think Dal rejected the faculty's latest offer. So the strike is kind of, I think, no end date in sight, which sucks, both for classes and also because I'm applying for Shirk this year. And so it just means that like one of the things that was like a big appeal to me for Dal was how much like the department and everything seems to support the students, which of course is like still the case, but one of the ways that they do that is they do like a very hands-on like application session for Shirk and those kind of like, which is applicable to like other kinds of scholarships. It's just that like Shirk and NSERC are kind of like the biggest like federal grants that you can get for doctoral. They have an MA grant, a doctoral grant, and a postdoc grant, and then also like for researchers, like when professors will get Shirk grants and stuff, like they have a lot of different like tiers or kinds of funding on offer, but it's like one of the biggest ones that PhD students can get essentially. So usually the faculty or usually the department does like a couple of sessions and they really help you with your application, but of course professors can't do that right now, which is too bad. We've kind of set up, a lot of the upper year PhD students are being super helpful and are like offering to read over our applications and everything, but of course it would be nice if we could get in contact with profs about this and for references as well. It hopefully will resolve and won't be an issue, but you know, still kind of waiting to hear, so we'll see. But yeah, so that's just kind of like more updates that I've gotten this morning. but still holding out hope and still have all of my stuff to do. I can still get my application ready. I did apply to AHRC last year when I applied to Glasgow for PhD. And one of the professors at Glasgow really helped me go through that application. So I feel like that process will help me with the SSHRC application and everything. So hopefully it's okay. And hopefully they come back with time to like review our applications still. But yeah, it's just too bad that we weren't able to do that this year, or haven't been able to do that. Maybe they'll come back with enough time and we will still be able to have that. That's the hope, but we'll see. But still lots I can be doing right now. Yeah, it's a lot of just like, gonna be doing a lot of readings today is the plan, but I will also be getting started at the writing center as kind of like a tutor, so that should be exciting. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some fun stuff going on this week. But thank you for watching, and stay tuned for some more like Halifax PhD stuff.